Rick Dollar, netradiodogs.com, and we are in Bristol, Tennessee today with a gentleman that's a world traveler, or at least a few states.
A few states
to come down to see us.
World traveler, a few states.
Exactly. So. We're in the beautiful L.C. King building in downtown Bristol. You're going to see a lot of new interviews done in this facility, hopefully. It's just a great place to be, and there's our plug for Pointer brand.
All right. My Pointer.
Exactly. My Pointer brand clothing. Beautiful. Even my pants. I love my pants.
Those are nice pants.
All right. I've got Danny Wilson with me. Danny, good to have you here today.
It's great to be here.
Give us some idea now. What you're best known for, that I know you for, is you co-wrote a song called Huck Finn Blues.
I did.
That Mr. Brad Paisley recorded and Carl Jackson actually produced for the, now I may get the name of the record wrong. I have it in the car, but I call it the Mark Twain album.
Yeah, it's called, the official title is Mark Twain Words and Music.
That's it. That's it. Anyway, that seemed to be a pretty successful thing for you.
It was it was a very successful endeavor. So anytime you can get Brad Paisley to record a song of yours, that's that's a successful.
I don't see him doing anything I write. So. But anyway, what I'd like to find out about you, Danny, is you know, your roots as far as music goes in your life. Who was your big influences? I mean, who lit that little spark in you that makes you do what you do?
I think it was originally the Beatles. When I was a kid, they were the first rock and roll band that I got into, and you know, and it just went from there. I developed just a passion for music and just a love for music that goes beyond what a lot of people, how much people usually get into it.
Exactly.
And I just wanted to explore everything, every genre, every type of music that was out there, and dig deeper and go back to the roots of it. And I think that's kind of what brought me to Bristol here, and that was to see the birthplace of country music. You know, you go from the Beatles all the way back to Jimmy Rogers and the Carter family, who are two of my favorite influences. The Rolling Stones, that British 60s invasion was a big part of my influence. Ray Davies and the Kinks.
Oh yeah.
I got to spend a little bit of time over in England a couple years ago with Ray Davies, doing a songwriting course with him, and got to know him a little bit and learned a whole lot from him about songwriting. So those are that's kind of how it started, though. I would say the Beatles were that first thing that really lit a fire in me, and you know, now they've kind of fallen a little bit by the wayside, and I've dug way deeper into the roots music. I love old Delta blues. I've made some pilgrimages down to the Mississippi to find the graves of old blues singers, and you know, I love people like Robert Johnson and Charlie Patton, Son House.
Yeah.
You name it, Muddy Waters. So
talking about
a lot of roots music is my thing. That's what seems to light my fire these days.
That's great. Now you guys made a little pilgrimage down to Memphis.
We did
to see
recently.
See the King's abode.
That's one of my regular pilgrimages. It's only about 2.5–3 hours from my house, and I'm a huge Elvis fan. I should have mentioned Elvis, because my mother was a huge Elvis fan when I was growing up. So I got that influence secondhand from her. But I still, to this day, we had about an 8-hour drive up here to Bristol, and it was. You know, we listened to Elvis the whole way in the car. So
cool.
we had satellite radio on, and we had the Elvis station.
Yeah, he has his own channel.
Right, he has the Elvis channel. Elvis Week is getting ready to go on down there. So lots of things happening. But Elvis is one of my huge influences. Somebody that just never really goes away for me. His music always speaks to me, and I don't know, I've always felt a spiritual connection to the music of Elvis for some reason.
I've heard that from more than one person that claim to be an Elvis fan. When they come to me and they say, I have like a spiritual connection with his music and things that he says and things that he did, then I know they're for real.
Right.
Because that's exactly what it was. It was a huge spiritual movement.
It was, and he was a spiritual guy. A lot of people don't realize that.
Very much so.
A lot of people don't know that part of Elvis, but he was a very spiritual guy.
It's really sad that it had to come out after he passed.
Right.
You know, so many great things that he did. But, I mean, I guess that's just how things work out sometimes. But, yeah, I'm with you on the Elvis thing.
Can't
right
beat
there.
Elvis. Yeah.
So you would say that you grew up listening to music. So when did you first pick up a guitar and say, "Hey, I think I'm going to try to write some songs"?
You know, I first picked up a guitar when I was a kid, but I took a few lessons here and there, and they used to teach in the style where you would learn the kind of the Mary Had a Little Lamb, Mary Has a Little Lamb style, and I just never could get interested in it because I wanted to play. Play music, play the kind of music I heard on the radio, which was primarily at the time country music because that's what my parents listened to, and Elvis and those sort of things. And but I never really picked it up too well from there. It wasn't until I was in my late teens, early 20s, I actually started out as a bass player, and so I played for several years in some bands around Southern Illinois, and I just decided, you know, as much as I love the bass and all that, I wanted to become a songwriter. I wanted to write my own songs, and I think it had a lot to do with the Beatles, John Lennon, that sort of thing. Those people really made me want to try to do that. I remember one year for Christmas I got a Beatles songbook. It's the big white one that has all the tablature for every single Beatles song in it, and just learning those Beatles chords helped me kind of learn how songs are put together, and from there it took a lot of years, and I went in the Army for a while. I was in the Army for 8 years, and always had a guitar with me wherever I went, even when I was in Iraq. And but it wasn't. I didn't seriously get into songwriting until I came back from Iraq, and that's when I think I really started to pour the songs out. You know,
that's good.
I realized while I was over there that it was the big love of my life, and it was the thing that I wanted to do, was to write songs. And I found artists like Greg Brown and Bill Morrissey. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but just the kind of writers that make you want to go pick up that guitar and write music, because they can just write such brilliant lyrics and music.
It just shocks me. I've met a few songwriters and interviewed a few songwriters, but their thing is, it seems so easy to them, but it's a gift. It's just a gift. It will pour out of them sometimes. And, you know, for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then they'll say, "Okay, I'm done."
Right.
And they know the moment that they're done. Okay. You know,
yeah, I do go through periods like that where, I mean, I may go 6 months through without writing a song. I had talked to Larry Cordell one time, who you had interviewed, and you know, he said he thinks in the last year he's written about 4 songs. So you have years where you write 4 songs, and you have years where you write, you know, 24 songs.
Exactly.
So, it just I tend to be the type that writes on inspiration, and
that's good.
And like I said with the Huck Finn Blues, it was one of those things that it was like a bolt of lightning that just fell in my lap one night. I was sitting on the couch and kind of got the first line, and from there, 15 minutes later, the lyrics were written out. I mean, we had no idea that you know, eventually somebody like, I had no idea that anybody would record it, let alone somebody like Brad Paisley.
See, it just goes to show you.
Right.
It just goes to show you.
That's what I tell people. You know, if you have the right product, you're in the right place at the right time. I was lucky to have met Cindy, who helped the project along. I probably never could have gone to Nashville and knocked on doors and gotten the same results and gotten Brad Paisley to record a song of mine. It's
just like a lot of the other projects that I've talked to people about. Of course, I'm going to bring up Orthophonic Joy because I have no other choice, because of what you're telling me. Sounds an awful lot like what happened with that record also.
Right.
It just is meant to happen at that time, and it's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, it's like the White Album, the Beatles. It was time for the White Album.
It was time.
And it was there. And it probably just poured out of them like water.
Yeah.
They probably knew exactly what they were going to do, and it was done, and
it was so different.
And then they played it. They played it for the rest of their lives.
Right. Absolutely.
So are you prepared to play?
I think it's the song that I'm usually expected to play. And,
exactly.
And
That's
so
right.
sometimes, I can't say that it's my favorite song that I have. I have probably a dozen other songs that I think are better songs, maybe, or that I like better. But it is the song that has given me a little bit of success,
right.
and put a few pennies in my pocket. Not a lot, but in these days of streaming music, you can't expect to make a whole lot of music as a songwriter, or not a whole lot of music, but a whole lot of money as a songwriter.
Yeah.
So. But it's not about the money. It's not about the money. To me, the joy is to have somebody come up to you and say, "That's my favorite song on that album," or there have been several instances where I found somebody has blogged about the song on the internet, and it's that kind of appreciation that means more to me than any royalty checks.
Sometimes
or
it's better than
that. It absolutely is.
I mean, when you. Danny and I started talking. I guess I could go ahead and say this.
Yeah.
We started talking on the phone one night, and I was just so astounded at the person I was talking to, because it was just like we were talking about. It was just like meant for us to talk. And I remember sitting at the kitchen counter, sending text messages, and finally, I'm not a text message kind of guy. I get tired of punching all these buttons, and I'm better if I can say, "Hey, can I call you? Yeah, let's talk." It's a lot better to me. But I got to know a really good person, and there's a lot more to Danny Wilson than anybody knows, probably.
Well, gosh, that means a lot to me.
I'm seeing a lot of your influences, though, are guys like Jack White,
right?
Jimmy Rogers,
yes,
the Carter family,
absolutely.
And we have the Carter fold here in Hilton's, Virginia, which is just right down the road.
We're going to go up there tonight, I believe.
There you go.
They've told us they're going to give us free tickets.
Oh my gosh! Well, there you go. Sounds good.
Yeah. So,
but it's you also you're pretty active on social media too.
Right.
Traveling Through the Dark is your new Facebook page that you guys have done together.
Right. That's my girlfriend Megan and I. That is our little band project that we've got going on right now. So,
that's good.
So we've just kind of gotten that started. I've got another band on the side called It's a Beautiful World. But we haven't been practicing much lately, so Megan and I have been really doing the lion's share of the music lately, and I really just like the way her voice complements mine and adds to it. I guess I've always been a little bit insecure, like some people are, but I know John Lennon had always wanted a little extra something added to his voice.
Reverb, I think is what he used to say.
Yeah, he didn't like the sound of his own voice, and so I always feel better when I have somebody else singing with me.
Yeah, John Lennon. I mean, how can you mess up?
That's right.
That's how you got to think about yourself.
I'm going to try.
Exactly. That's probably the attitude he had also.
Yeah.
I found that more musicians are. They're just like me. They're insecure. We're insecure about what we do because we want to do it so good.
Right.
And that's that.
I agree. I think the insecurity goes along with that, with any kind of creative endeavor. I think
it actually pushes you to do
and because it's such a hard way to go. It's such a hard way to make it. It's hard to make. It's almost impossible to make a living unless you just unless you just get that lightning bolt of luck somehow. But it's a difficult road, the creative field, because you don't always get the appreciation you want to get out of it and things like that. But it's not about that always. It's about the doing it. For me, that's rewarding. It's about when that new song comes falling out of the air somewhere, and I'm like, where did that come from? How did that happen? I didn't get up this morning with that in my head, and I don't know where that came from. And it's a really kind of magical, mystical sort of experience, the songwriting or any kind of the arts.
Songwriting astounds me, I guess, because I don't have that talent, and I just wonder sometimes. I'll hear a really great song and I think, how did that happen? That's cool. How did that happen? And it's really
I think
not for me to know, I don't guess, because I'm not really into, you know, into sitting down and writing a song, because I don't think that I could do that.
Yeah.
But it just shocks me how songwriters can, like we were talking about, go, you know, 3-4 months at a time and not write anything.
Yeah.
Because I would freak out.
Now I think I could.
If I was a songwriter, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm not writing a song.
Now I think I could sit down every day and write a song, but it's not going to be the kind of songs that I want to write. The kind of songs that I want to write are those kind of, like I said, you know, out of the, just something out of the blue that falls out of the sky.
Yeah, there's something about that.
There's something about that those usually seem to be the ones that last.
Exactly.
You can do it by craft, and I know how to do that. I've taught creative writing for 7 years, and I can craft something. I have a creative writing. I have a bachelor's degree in creative writing, and I can craft a song, but that's not the way I prefer it. I prefer to, when that song, because I believe that the song's always working inside you, and that in some ways your subconscious is always writing. So
probably true.
When the song's ready, it tends to come out. It forces its way out, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So I think, you know, when you ask a songwriter how do you do that, you don't really know how you do it, because every single song is a different experience. Some of them are a little bit of craft and a little bit of inspiration. Some of them are almost totally inspiration.
Yeah, speaking about Larry Cordell there earlier, I've had some phone conversations with him since we met in Nashville, and I never really go into that part of it with him, because I feel like that's a very private thing for somebody. And everybody has their own influence when it comes to writing songs. But like you're saying, sometimes it just happens.
Sometimes it just happens.
You know, Larry he's a road dog. He plays a lot.
He does.
And he likes it. That's how his life is. And, you know, maybe you can get to the point to where you play a lot. I mean, like 4 or 5 days a week.
That's what I,
You know, that's gotta be a target.
That's what I'd like to do. That's what we've talked about, you know. But yeah, it's a tough road. But those guys like Larry Cordell and Carl Jackson and some of those guys you've interviewed, that's what you almost have to do anymore, because it's become so hard just to make a living off the songwriting in Nashville.
Yeah.
More and more of the artists are writing their own songs nowadays.
Exactly.
And you know, the royalties that you get off of these streaming services aren't the same.
Probably not as much as you would think.
Not nearly as much as you would think. I don't think they pay the artists what they're probably due.
Yeah.
But that's where it's going. So I think you have to shift and adapt.
I think Apple's starting to get their act together. And
I think Apple's
start paying the performers.
They're kind of leading
and the
way,
songwriters a little bit more, which is good. You know, maybe we're seeing a very positive trend here in what you do for a living and what songwriters do and performers. I feel like personally, if you're doing something and it's a craft to you, like you spoke of, hey, you should get paid for it, because it's a gift that not a lot of people have. And if maybe just because I'm a music lover, I just love music, but I feel like people need to get paid for that.
It'd be nice.
I mean, you know,
I wouldn't mind getting paid for it. I'll put it that way.
All right. Well, enjoy yourself in Bristol.
Thank you very much.
Have fun at the Carter Fold.
Oh, I'm going to love it.
Yeah, stop and get you something to eat down here in downtown Bristol. We got some great restaurants.
I went to the hamburger joint that I guess Hank Williams.
The Burger Bar.
The Burger Bar, yeah. I guess another huge influence of mine, Hank Williams. So as soon as we had stopped in the gift shop at the museum up the road, and they said a guy had handed us a kind of a self-guided tour map, and he told us about the Burger Bar. And as soon as he mentioned Hank Williams supposedly stopping there on the last night of his life, I was like, okay, that's where we've got to eat dinner at. That's where we've got to eat dinner. Man. So.
All right.
It's been a great time here in Bristol. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, no problem. Have you had a good time?
I've had a great time with you guys.
Well, we got to know.
All right.
At least we're doing something right. Hey, Rick Dollar with Net Radio Dogs. We are in Bristol, Tennessee with Mr. Danny Wilson.